Welcome to Superhuman Selling. I am so excited because today we're going to be talking about the neuroscience of change, creating your dream life, and what it looks like to create a life and a business without limits. I am joined by Allison Lacoursiere. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you.
I'm so happy to be here.
So, if you're not yet familiar with Allison, and if you're in our community or if you've done our programs, then you have probably encountered her and her work. But Allison is an international keynote speaker. She's an ICF certified coach. You're the founder of the Magnetic Success program as well. And what I want to talk with you about today is this concept of actually creating and living your dream life. And I think this is a phrase that's thrown around a lot, and people we get it, people talk about it on Instagram, like, what does it look like to create your dream life? But I want to hear from you because you have actually, I think, truly done this and created so much change and so much transformation, especially in the past year. You've doubled your income, worked what you call a 3 by 3 schedule, which we'll talk about a little bit on this show too. You've picked up and moved your entire life cross country, and I've seen you. You're here. You're in our consultant certification and program, and really in leadership within the community as well. I've seen you embrace the concepts that are in this community and absolutely just transform and create an absolutely incredible life. So share a little bit about when I say creating your dream life. Like, what does that look like to you, and how have you actually done that over the past 12 months?
Yes. Oh my gosh, it has been such a fun journey in this last year, but I will say it wasn't always fun in and that's usually the start of a transformation or the start of really realizing like what you want in your life is often we're faced with the things that we don't want. And so I grew up just having a vision, like a very strong vision, even from a child. I had a vision for the life I wanted to create. I had a vision for where I wanted to live. And I didn't grow up in a place that was so available to me, like so many people aren't. It's just where we grow up or what happened when we were growing up as a child. But as a child, even, I knew that I had a big vision and I didn't know why. And so from very young, I started following that vision and getting more and more clear on what it is that I wanted, but more importantly, who I was meant to be in this
Mm,
life. And I would say, kind of the first thing that I feel really connected to when it comes to transformation is learning how to trust your inner knowing.
mm,
So even as a child, I knew like I want to live by the ocean. I want to help people, whatever that looks like. And I want to live a very expansive life.
mm.
And so that took me to moving to the island of Bermuda when I was 19 years old by myself for my very first job. It took me to starting my business during the middle of a pandemic. And it really took me into this community and working with you of really pushing out the boundaries of what is possible for us as women in business. And that's really been the foundation of my business, my career, what I do for other women. And I'll say that there's so much that we can give ourselves permission to just dream, to want, to desire, to step into. And it really starts with that inner knowing and that inner wisdom.
Yeah. You spoke about trusting that inner knowing, and I think that that's something that, at least for part of my journey, it was the most challenging. It was the hardest, and I think that oftentimes, as you mentioned early on as a little girl, you knew you wanted to live an expansive life. You knew that you were called to something greater, and yet things happen over time that have us cut off that connection from our inner knowing, whether it's trauma, physical trauma, sexual trauma, people telling us that we're crazy, that we're thinking too big. So, what did you ever have that experience of cutting off your inner knowing, and what happened? And then we'll talk about how to reconnect, but I want to hear if that ever happened to you and what
Oh
that
my
looked like.
gosh. It probably happened. I mean, it's definitely happened more than once. Um, I would say the first kind of experience of that was being a woman in business who just worked so hard
Mm,
and felt like my worth was attached to what I produced or what my work was, which I think so many of us can relate to. But it was like cutting off how I felt every day to just push through to the next goal, to the next metric, to the next, you name it. It was just cutting off how I felt every single day. So I think that was the first one. And that was like underlying in many of the ways that I was operating as an athlete that at the time I was playing on the national volleyball team in Bermuda. We're kind of taught to hide the way that we feel so that we can just push through. So I think that was the very first time, but the moment it really called me to wake up was finding myself in a relationship that was physically, emotionally, mentally abusive. And I remember, in my car sitting there thinking to myself, I am a beautiful, successful woman. Like, how did I get to this place? And I think that those moments are the moments of like self-reckoning, self-reclamation. It's like this realization that who I am does not fit into what I'm experiencing right now. And that was a huge catalyst for me. That was actually when you and I started working together, because I realized that I was so far detached from myself that I needed to find my way back.
You said something so powerful right there. You said, who I am doesn't fit into where I find myself right now.
Yeah.
I think that we have all had those moments if we've been on the planet long enough. And it's like one choice, one yes to something that was actually really a no for us after another, one moment of denying or not listening to that inner voice. It just compounds. When you found yourself there, kind of looking at the life that you had built, and I've certainly had moments like that too, um, it requires a lot of bravery to face it. How did you start to really reconnect and listen to that inner voice and use it to guide change and guide transformation for you when maybe you'd been disconnected from it for a long time?
Yeah, it was really an honest conversation with myself that I was no longer available to experiencing what I was experiencing in my life. Like, and again, it was going back to that knowing that this was not meant for me. That this experience is not meant for me, and better is. And so it was a day by day trusting. It was a day by day step forward into getting reconnected to my knowing, my truth, my love, my worthiness, all the spaces that I actually am meant to be in. I slowly but surely, step by step, got myself back to it. And it really started with trusting the things that really felt good to me and seeking the support that I desired during that time. And so it was finding coaches, it was finding communities, it was surrounding myself with people that felt safe and felt good. And that was kind of the first step into retrusting myself and then the path kind of unfolds for you. You don't know where you're going to go in situations like that,
Right.
but you just know that you're going to step forward every single day.
Yeah, I love that. And I remember in my own experience, one of my experiences of that in my 20s, it was very similar in that I had no idea what was on the other side of making a lot of changes, of leaving a relationship that really wasn't healthy in a lot of ways and leaving the corporate job that I had at the time. It was a lot of things that had felt like stable, like consistent things in my life that I knew it was time to leave. But I knew that the pain of staying where I was outweighed that fear of the change. And I don't think we have to always get there to change. And I know that the work that you do, the work I do, the work we do in the community is really about transforming from a place of, or one of the things is transforming from a place where, gosh, things are good, but could it be even better?
Yeah.
Right? Like we get to continually claim better for ourselves. So we'll speak to that. But I think when we're in that space where we say, I don't know what's on the other side of that, but I've seen what happens when I stay here. I've seen what this is. So let me be open to it could be better on the other side. It has to be better on the other side. But it takes bravery and it takes a lot of courage.
It does. And I think it also takes realizing that what got you into that circumstance or situation in the first place was not choosing yourself. It was a lack of self-worth, like a lack of listening to yourself. And the simplest thing to do is just start listening to yourself again. Like we know, like women, we know that that person wasn't right for us. That business partnership was not meant for us. That business wasn't meant for us. Whenever we get into circumstances, we're like, whoa, this feels suddenly misaligned. It was probably misaligned from the beginning, but we just weren't listening close enough. And so we go back to, I always say this to my clients, I'm like, listen to the whispers before they become screams. And it's listening to the things that feel good are true. They're meant for you. That's alignment. When it feels bad, it doesn't mean we have to like push through and prove ourselves and hustle through it at all. Even though so many things in our culture, I think, kind of allow us to believe that, it's not true. Life gets to feel good. Relationships get to feel like the most beautiful thing in the world. And it's retraining our brain to recognize that we get to feel these joyful, expansive moments, and the things that don't feel that way, just they're not aligned.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll pull in some of your leadership when it comes to neuroscience and how to retrain your brain, because I think that you've got some really powerful wisdom to share there. I would love for you to share a little bit about how you have tuned into that inner voice, especially over this past year, to manifest incredible success for yourself, great abundance, to really build and create your dream life. So maybe share a little bit about, gosh, was it about a year ago, maybe a little bit more than that, when you just made a decision to really go all in on this material and the transformations that you've had and how you have created this beautiful life by design. I think to start there would be really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. So this time last year, we were starting the consultancy
Yeah.
certification, and I was surrounded by all these incredible women, obviously in your and Laura's energy. And I had realized, even though we had been working together for a number of years, I still was like towing the line. Like I was on the edge of fully going for it.
Yeah.
And I had, healed from my past relationship, and I was operating at a measure of success that felt pretty comfortable for me. I was speaking on stages, I was working a lot, and I actually fell in love. And it was this beautiful catalyst of wanting more for my life. It was this experience of just saying like, Allison, I think that there's a lot more for you and it's available to you right now.
Mm.
So I made a decision. I think that's the first step, is deciding. And I, looked at my habits, I looked at my thoughts, I looked at any of the areas that felt even slightly misaligned,
Mhm.
even slightly sticky. And I said, this is no longer going to happen. And I'm going all in on my expansiveness,
Mhm.
on my dream, and I'm going to create what I want.
Mm.
And there was a part of me that, always comes up, the limiting beliefs, self-doubt, like, what if it doesn't happen? And I'm like, doesn't matter. I'm just going to go for it and see what happens.
Mm.
And so during that process, my partner and I decided we wanted to work less. I had been speaking on weekends for almost 4 years at this point,
Mm.
and I loved the stage, but was ready for change. And we decided to build the 3x3 schedule. And it was almost like setting an impossible goal, but the version of Allison that could live in 3 days a week, 3 weeks of the month, while doubling the income, because I was unavailable to lose revenue or lose income. I wanted more. um, 3x3, double income. There was this really cool experience where I had to think about, who is that woman that can have that? And thanks to your work, this community, how does she think? How does she feel? And what does she do every day? And I literally every day embodied that. And I teach neuroscience. My little brother's a neuroscientist. I've built out a neuroscience of leadership program. So I had the ability to look at what was happening in my brain as I was going through this transformation to help kind of bring myself forward.
Mm.
Because as human beings, change is hard. Like, we're biologically designed to survive, to stay the same. Anything that's different can feel really scary. And so there's certain, habits, certain rituals that will help your brain actually change into whoever you want to be. And so in my case, it was the woman who had a lot of free time,
Yeah.
who could travel the world with my partner, and who could have the level of income and the business that I desired.
Mm. So, what you're saying is so powerful. And I want to dig in on a particular question where I think that sometimes people get confused in the difference between a limiting belief and misalignment. So, I'd love for you to dig into this a little bit, because earlier you mentioned, like, if it doesn't feel good, it's not your truth.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a lot of truth in that. And simultaneously, my experience has always been, as I'm ascending, I'll have experiences and I'll have, sometimes it's a few days, sometimes it's longer, but it's like a period where I get to work through the resistance to what I want. And I think that if we say, "Oh my gosh, this doesn't feel good, so it can't be true for me," we end up kind of capping ourselves and keeping ourselves where we are. So I think that's a place where people get confused, and I'd love to hear your take on it, especially maybe from a neuroscience standpoint of, like, what is the difference and how do we know if it is truly misalignment versus just, "No, I'm upper limiting myself, like, I'm going to my next level and I'm feeling incredibly uncomfortable right now."
Yes. Yeah. So we can put ourselves in experiences of safety and of peace and joy, often in meditation or visualization, where we drop in, we feel safe, and we ask ourselves to imagine the highest version of ourselves or what we desire. It's that experience of visualization, of imagination, of like, what could you possibly dream for yourself? In that moment, you are safe. And when you trust what comes through in those moments as not it's too good to be true, but actually your divine destiny,
Mm.
that's the first step.
Mm.
It's when you drop in and you imagine what life could feel like or what life could be like, you can trust that.
Mm.
The second part is when we look at metacognition. So metacognition is, a fancy term for just understanding our own thoughts.
Yeah.
It's hearing and having the ability to discern between my thoughts are me or that's a thought I'm just having.
Mm.
So that's the first step is you visualize the greatest future you could possibly imagine, knowing that if it comes through you, it's meant for you. First step. Second step, when you think thoughts about it, any ones that are limiting, that make you feel bad, that put you in your suffering state of who am I to think that? That's easy for Elyse, but it's not easy for me.
Mm.
What are people going to think? Recognize that those thoughts are not the truth. They're just a thought.
Mm.
And so it's discerning between, that is a limiting thought that's making me feel scared rather than that's misalignment.
Mm.
So it's really allowing yourself to get into that space of self-connection first and asking yourself, like, how does this feel to me? And if it feels excited, expansive, if your body opens up, if you feel like lit up by it, it's meant for you.
Mm.
And I think sometimes we think that it's, too good to be true or like that's someone else. But those glimpses of too good to be true are actually windows into what's meant for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And I think learning to tune in and come from that place of the vision, the expansion, the most abundant, incredible vision that you can tap into for yourself. And then from there, that's your truth.
Yes.
To me, that's always a key to come back to
Yes.
again and again. And I appreciate you weaving in the neuroscience aspect of it because I think a lot of people need to understand the science. And there's a lot of spirituality and science in this. And frankly, I kind of think it's all the same at all, which is really fun too. How do you continue to trust yourself as your vision expands? So as even just thinking about kind of your journey and your brand and what you've done and coming from the dental space and having really built a really influential brand in that space and expanding now even beyond that to some of the work that you're doing, claiming the 3x3 lifestyle, increasing your income dramatically and continuing to tap into greater and greater opportunities. How do you keep trusting the expansion that comes through and evolve your identity as you go?
Yes. And it's a practice.
Yeah.
It is a choice every single day. And so when it comes to change, when we change our identity, if I'm sitting here and imagining my future self and you have a brain scan of me and I'm imagining my future self, the brain scan will pick up the same kind of sentiment inside of your brain as stranger. So it's recognizing that our brains see that future version of ourselves as stranger at the very beginning. But as we daily take action to integrate that belief system, visualize that self, think from that person, slowly your brain starts to see it as self.
Interesting.
But it takes it's a process.
What's the normal time? Is there a normal timeline on how long that takes, or it just depends on the intensity of
It depends on
how
the
you're doing it?
intensity,
Okay.
and there's certain things. So having a strong emotional experience, maybe a little bit of fear or vulnerability will actually help strengthen that neural pathway because it's a very strong emotional experience. Will anchor it in. It's the daily meditation. It's the subconscious reprogramming of affirmations that will cause that neural pathway to strengthen so that soon enough your brain will not see you as stranger.
Interesting.
So knowing this, anytime I think of a future vision that scares me a little bit, or I'm like, I don't even know how that's going to happen, the first thing I do is I remember that I can trust myself. And a practice that I do every single quarter, every single 90 days is I write down all of the things that I've been able to do in my life that I really wanted to do.
Mm.
When I ask people this question and I say, how many of the things that you've really wanted to do in your life have you done?
Yeah.
And most people say everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And I'm like, really? Everything. And it's this mark of when you really want to do it, you will. And you can trust yourself to do it. And from there, I remember all the evidence of me already achieving what it is that I desire from the moment I moved to Bermuda to being on the national team, all these things. And then I look at that energy and I'm like, of course you can.
Mm.
And then I program that into my brain, knowing that my natural response in my brain is going to say, this is not safe. I'm not okay. You get to talk to yourself through that and be smarter than your brain, be smarter than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And my little brother always says, like, our brains are kind of dumb. Like, they're meant to help us survive. They're not necessarily meant to, or evolutionarily built to help us thrive, but they're meant to keep us safe. And so we have to override some of those natural responses and reactions to change, to being different, to trying something new, so that you can continue to step into that next version of yourself. So I always say, like, it gets to be a little bit uncomfortable, and that's okay. But as long as you're so excited about that future vision, you know it's right for you.
That's incredible. And being able to override that and
Yeah.
pay attention to that, I think is really, really key. Are there any processes? Is it just the awareness of, okay, I'm finding myself in a suffering state, I'm having a limiting belief, and you just have the awareness and you kind of ride it out, you use the processes for rewiring? Like, what do you do when you find yourself in that state and you have that metacognition to say, I know that I'm not thinking truth right now, but it feels so real, right? The
Yeah.
brain makes it feel, it makes the quote unquote danger feel real, the survival instinct. So what's your personal practice like in that moment?
Yeah. I mean, it took some time
Yeah.
to reprogram myself to realize that joy, safety, peace is your baseline.
Mm,
That is your baseline. And sometimes when I tell people that, they're like, really?
yeah.
I'm like, you've just been living in high stress, high fear, anxiety for a little while, and that's okay. But your baseline is to feel good.
Mm,
And so
mm,
knowing that and remembering that and recognizing that anything that's less than good, you get to question it. What's
mm.
going on here? Like, what is happening? So day by day, as I'm going through things, of course, there's triggers. Of course, there's experiences, especially if you're growing, when you're growing. And it's moment by moment recognizing, I don't feel good about this. What is it? Is it a limiting belief? Is it a misalignment? And I really start to trust and check in with my body. So we feel our emotions so strong in our body, and their wisdom, they teach us something. And so often, especially very intelligent, high achieving people, they cut themselves off at the neck and they say, I think, my logical brain,
Yeah.
and we focus so hard on that, but there's so much wisdom in our emotions. So it's really like, again, slowing down and allowing yourself to feel and be present
Yeah.
moment by moment to what is it that I'm really experiencing here.
Mm.
And when you're in that like fast paced lifestyle, sometimes that takes like a really dramatic slowing down so that you can connect back with your body, maybe for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
But it's necessary. It is necessary.
It is. And I think when you do this work, you can become aware of it. Even just this morning, like we've been going so fast with all the things we've been doing at the company, and we're in a big event week. And I can tell for myself when I'm in a space where I say, I want to go be in the RV, just hang with my kids a little bit. I can tell that it's an invitation, and there's nothing wrong with anything going on, but it's an invitation to say, at least you need to create some time and space and slow down and recenter. And I think that having that awareness to like slow down and check in is so healthy. And it doesn't mean that we are lazy. It doesn't mean that we're not going to achieve our goals, but it allows us to continue to expand from a place of alignment.
Yes.
Right.
And it doesn't have to take a lot of time. Like even doing a 3 minute, breath work
Yeah.
session, or dropping into a meditation, or listening to your Power Life script. All these tools don't have to take a lot of time,
Mm.
but it's just throughout your day. Anytime you're swayed too far off your path of alignment, it's choosing to put yourself back on moment by moment rather than veering off for years.
Right.
And we haven't been there. So it's
Exactly.
getting yourself back on faster,
Yeah.
moment by moment, day by day, and stepping forward to that vision that you have.
Yeah.
And it evolves to happen just as you can imagine.
It does. I want to ask you one more question before you share with everyone where they can connect with you. So I know part of your heart and passion and a big driver for you right now is helping women create, build, launch $1 million businesses, which ties in with some of the work that we do together in the community in our $1 million business program. I would just love if you could share, why is it that you're so passionate about that, and what do you think women need to know today to empower them to create incredibly prosperous, abundant businesses while also doing life and business on their terms?
Yes. I know and feel that women are so powerful. And when women heal, they change the whole world. That's their children, that's their family, that's their community. Women are community builders,
Yeah.
and women also share resources. I mean, just statistically more than more than men.
Mm.
And so when women rise in their purpose, when they rise in their passion, when they step into who they're meant to be, the ripple effect around them statistically is just incredible. And
Mm.
so when I think about all the women that I know and could touch to help them step into the most amount of abundance they could ever want, to work in the gifts that they were brought into this world to serve, for them to take that and fully impact each and every one of their communities, I truly believe it's going to change the whole world.
Yeah.
So I feel so excited to watch women build the company of their dreams, the lifestyle of their dreams, wear the clothes they want to wear, have the time off that they want to have, and spend time with their kids in the ways that really resonate and align for them, because that will truly make a better world.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. It's so beautiful and so true. And just yesterday, even here at our event, we were talking about the ripple effect and the
Yeah.
amplification of every single woman stepping into her power. And what was the number we found? The average circle of influence is like 1,000 that we deeply impact every time we
Yeah.
evolve and transform. And that's the people we deeply impact, not
Right.
just everyone we're connected to. So I think that as each of us, you, me, you listening, surrenders to the greatness of our vision, which has been kind of the theme of this week as we meet together, um, it's not just about us.
No.
It is about freeing and liberating other people because they see what's possible mirrored through that. So I just want to acknowledge you for living out your greatness, for being available to be fully seen, fully celebrated, and to continue to push the boundaries and question the limits that are sometimes that we think are imposed on us, to really claim and create your most abundant, epic life, business, and to do that as a mirror for what's possible for others. So, Allison, tell everyone, how can they connect with you? How can they follow you? And I know that people are going to want to reach out and connect.
Yes, AllisonLacoursiere.com. Find me on Instagram, Allison Lacoursiere. I'm super excited to connect.
Yes. And Allison is doing, again, really, really cool things, even in our community. And we're co-facilitating, you're leading Ease in Abundance with AI, which is so cool because you're teaching people how to use AI to grow and scale businesses, but also to leverage neuroscience and how do we use AI to like powerfully rewire our brains even, which is really interesting for success for anything we want, as well as $1 million business and ICF certification. So there's so many cool things happening. And I just appreciate your partnership and you and who you are. So we will link everything that Allison shared in the show notes so you can go connect with her. And I just want to thank you, as always, for being a listener of the show, of the podcast. I want to remind you to trust yourself on your path to success. Your desires are green lights leading you and everyone around you to a brighter future. I'll see you on our next episode.